I decided to share my story today because I want the young boys and girls who are experiencing body-focused repetitive behavior disorders to know that they're fine just the way they are, imperfect. They say that BFRBs, body-focused repetitive behavior disorders, are genetic and they are passed down. So hair pulling, skin picking, stuff like that. Typically, the people who came before you had some sort of habit similar to that. In fact, 1 in 2 people have some sort of skin picking or hair pulling disorder. It kind of goes in and out of their life. There's mild and severe cases. And so at some point in my young years, I decided that there was this image of what a woman should look like. And that came with, no cellulite, no acne, perfect hair. And I just strived for that. And it just was this unreachable thing. And so as a byproduct of that, I would just self-hate. In front of the mirror, it was probably soothing. And it was my way of ridding imperfections. So it was here's the goal, we gotta get to the goal. And then once, I was probably in a trance-like state. And when I came out of it, especially in the morning when I'm in front of the mirror doing this, it's I've gotta go to school now and my face is red from picking my skin. And my dad's yelling, "Elle, we gotta go." And I'm I'm not going like this. And he's no, we have to go. And I'm I'm not going because the shame is just too real. And sometimes I'd win that battle and sometimes I wouldn't. And with the hair pulling, it was the same, sort of just trans-like state. It felt good. It felt good. It still feels good. Afterwards, regret, especially the older I got. Heavy regret. Sometimes I would notice that I was doing it and I would continue to do it. And other times I'd notice that I'm doing it and I would be oh, you have to stop. Stop it. Because you're gonna go bald if you don't. Was the fear tactic that I used on myself. I went a long time without doing any of my own research on this. I think because I was so ashamed of it, I wanted to compartmentalize it and put it in a box and just not address it. I think I was 24 when I first learned of the term trichotillomania, but I didn't take any action until 27. And that's when I joined a BFRB group. And I met a ton of other people that were skin pickers and hair pullers. And it was so good to just speak freely about these imperfect thoughts we had about ourselves. And that's what made me decide that I just have to start telling people about this. The stories that other people shared in the BFRB support group were just so affirming. And the more raw we got, the more therapeutic it was. It just eliminated this whole shame cycle that I had been building and harboring for a long time. Their stories affirmed that I'm not the only one with this. And there are dozens of us like this. At no point in my life until I was 27 years old did I ever encounter someone who said, "I'm a skin picker," or "I pull my hair out," and coined it as trichotillomania, dermatillomania, or BFRB. It never came up on my radar, and it's very real. Because what it created was anxiety. You know, a whole mess of things. Insecurities, not having the courage to be imperfect, feeling like I couldn't leave the house because I didn't look a certain way. You know, just like mood and anxiety disorder type stuff. The anxiety piece of this is something that I haven't unpacked as well as I have unpacked the trichotillomania part. Anxiety came in the form of seeking therapy, was what segued me into the giving up alcohol and the wanting to, and like just the bottoming out and being like, okay, I just want to stop pulling out my hair. What do I need to do? I started seeing a therapist who was incredibly helpful, doing some cognitive behavioral therapy and some other forms. And that was really introspective and sort of put me on that path of just awareness of when I was doing it, why I was doing it, you know, the contributing factors of the day that maybe was making me do it. It was really helpful. I have a mental illness are not words that I say to myself. My family's influence on mental health when growing up was probably it doesn't exist. Doesn't exist, you know, it's not tangible, doesn't exist. Pick yourself up, brush yourself off. Some people have it worse. So certainly that could have, instead of creating an open space where things like that could be discussed, the space was non-existent. I did tell my parents in much greater detail that I have trichotillomania, using that word. I have a BFRB, a body-focused repetitive behavior disorder, and kind of walked them through the technical language and the colloquial language around it. And their reactions were, can't you just not do it? Can't you just fold your hands and not pull your hair? And my dad's reaction was, nah, you don't have that. Nah, you don't have that. Just tell yourself, thoughts become things. You don't have that. And I'm like, okay, I'll try. Based on my own experience with BFRBs, there is, like I've said many times, a ton of shame that we harbor around it. And so, in my opinion, the moment that you start sharing these things out loud, the more therapeutic it is for you, and the more you begin to release the shame. That's certainly what's happened for me. The more I tell this story, the more that I go into detail, like, yeah, I pick my hair, I like the sound that it makes in my head. I know that sounds really weird, but I do, because I'm a weirdo and we're all weird. The more I like say those things and come forward with the courage to be imperfect, the better I feel about myself, and the more that the shame is lifted. And back to your point about where were these stories when I was a kid, when I was even an adolescent, you know, I want the story to reach those kids and let them know that, like, they're not alone, and show themselves some grace. Like, be kind to yourself, you know? Like, if I had a loop pedal of my entire life and the thoughts that I said to myself on a conscious and subconscious level, I'm sure that like 75% of them would be really, really evil. And again, that comes from like, when you're a kid, you take in all this different imagery, right? You take in the world and you decide like what sort of expectations to set for yourself. And I set mine way too high. I was never to achieve no acne and, like perfect body and all these things. And that was my bad. But I didn't have the know-how to recognize that in myself. Dear Ellen, you're setting your expectations too high. Could you lower them? That information came much later in the game. And so I really want the young people to know that it's time for them to show themselves some grace and be imperfect out loud. Why did I decide that this was bad and not good? It depends on, your caliber of social norms in public, probably. And so when you are scolded to stop biting your nails, to stop picking your skin, to stop playing with your hair as a child, I think you automatically equate that with, this is shameful. We all have a level of body grooming, but pulling your hair out repetitively and picking your skin repetitively is destructive. And it's destructive to your body. It's destructive to your physical appearance, your face, the thing that you can't really hide from people. And so in combination with, being told as a child, don't do that, and body grooming on overdrive, it feels like something that I needed to hide from people and not do in public. My name is Ellen Storr, and I spend my time hanging out with people that empower me, motivate me, and inspire me. And I like to work out. I find that working out is really good for my mental health. Also eating right makes me feel really good. I am a creative person, so I design for a living, graphic design. I love creating PowerPoints for people. I love working one-on-one with people and cultivating their ideas and putting them into form. It's something that brings me great joy. And I love hearing stories from strangers and stories from good friends. Deep stories, intimate stories. I love when people share with me something they hate about themselves and something they're really insecure about. It affirms me, and it reminds me that, yeah, we're all human. We're all walking around with our insecurities, and sometimes we have confident days and sometimes we don't. And that's where I'm at.